And he put old Satan to flight after that third temptation in Matthew chapter 4. Satan left him. He could not win. And when we're tempted today, we need to realize that Jesus understands and He pleads before the Father on our behalf. He knows what it's like. He's assured us that He'll be with us. You know, one of the most comforting passages concerning temptation is 1 Corinthians chapter 13, or rather chapter 10 and verse 13. God who is faithful. Look at the beginning. God who is faithful, who will not suffer or allow you to be tempted above that ye are able, but will with the temptation make also a way to escape, that ye may be able to bear it. When Satan puts us into a room with temptation, God says, I'll make sure there's always an open door for you to go out. In Matthew 28 and verse 20, Jesus left a wonderful assurance. This is often coupled with a great commission, and maybe we just don't think about it from day to day, but we need to. Jesus said, Lo, I'm with you always, even to the end of the world. Now that promise that Jesus made to the apostles is certainly true for us today. He is with us. He will help us. So regardless of the temptations, regardless of the trials we face from day to day, Jesus Christ is the answer. And my friends, let me stress, He's the only answer. Jesus Christ is the answer to our problems with other people. Sometimes we find it difficult to get along with some people. It seems there are those maybe that hate us, dislike us. They seem determined to hurt us if they can. What do? Jesus said, love your enemies. Bless them that curse you or persecute you. Matthew chapter 5 and verse 44. In Luke 23 and verse 34, Jesus set the example as He hung upon the cross when He said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. In Romans chapter 1 and verse 21, the Apostle Paul said, Be not overcome of evil, but overcome evil with good. Such treatment will not always make friends of our enemies. Even the Lord had those who hated Him in spite of His kindness, and they crucified Him. But just the same, Jesus says love. He says forgive. He says pray. Not just for their sakes, but for our own. We need to remember that no enemy can do us harm if our heart is right with God. Again, Christ is the answer, the only answer. How do we deal with friends, neighbors, co-workers, business associates? Again, notice what Jesus said. Matthew 7 and verse 12. He said, Therefore, all things whatsoever that you would that men should do unto you, do ye even so to them. For this is the law and the prophets. We have paraphrased this. Do unto others as we would have them do unto you. We've paraphrased this and we've labeled it or called it the golden rule. Oh, what a wonderful thought. Treat other people the way that we ourselves want to be treated. In 1 Timothy 4 and verse 12, Paul says, Let no man despise thy youth, but be thou an example of the believers in word, conversation, that is our manner of life, in love, in spirit, in faith, and in purity. As Christians, we need to remember what Jesus said in Matthew 5. He said, Ye are the light of the world. He said, Ye are the salt of the earth. Light. We all understand the importance of light, especially in a world filled with darkness. Jesus said in verse 16 of Matthew chapter 5, Let your light shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. We understand the importance of salt. You can take food that is rather bland, and with salt, it is really good. We see the importance of salt in preserving meat and other things. Salt plays an important role. How interesting that God says we are light and we are salt. In the 12th chapter of the book of Mark, Jesus was approached by a lawyer who wanted to tempt him. And on this occasion, this lawyer asked Jesus a question. He said, "Which is the first commandment of all?" Verse 28. He was told in verses 30 and 31, "And thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, with all thy mind, and with all thy strength. And the second is like unto it, namely this, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. There is none other commandment greater than these." Jesus gave an answer that this lawyer was not prepared for. Love God. Love others. We find Jesus telling His disciples in John 13 and verse 34, "A new commandment I give unto you, that ye love one another as I have loved you, that ye also love one another. He that loveth not knoweth not God," John would write later, "for God is love." 1 John chapter 4 and verse 8. So even though sometimes it appears difficult, we find that we have the answer to love the unlovable, to love the unkind. And when we think that's difficult, we need to realize that God loves us. Because of sin, how lovable are we? So once again, Christ is the answer. He showed us how it was to be done. And this is the only way that we can be at peace with all men.